Welcome to True Echo, where real voices and unbelievable stories meet. In today's powerful tale, a black man returns to rebuild his grandfather's Texas ranch, only to be slapped with a shocking $250,000 HOA fee. But what the HOA didn't know. They had built on his land. What follows is a legal battle, a community's reckoning, and a legacy reclaimed. Stay with us, this is a story of truth, justice, and standing your ground when it matters most. Tyrone Devers eased his old Ford Expedition through the rusted gate, the tires crunching over sun-baked gravel as he crossed into his family's legacy. A mailbox leaning to one side read, Devers Ranch, EST 1964, in peeling black letters. Beyond the dust and mesquite trees stood the old house and barn, worn, weathered, and still standing. He let the engine idle for a moment, his fingers clenching the wheel. In the back seat, his children Jaden and Alana were asleep from the long drive from Austin. The silence of the land wrapped around the vehicle like a warm, forgotten memory. Cicadas buzzed in the distance. Tyrone stepped out, the hot Texas air meeting his lungs like an old friend. It smelled like dust, sage, and 100 summers past. To most, the place looked like ruin, a faded dream slumped against time. But to Tyrone, it was everything. This wasn't just land. It was his grandfather's life. It was family. It was his. Inside, the house creaked with age, but the bones were good. It smells weird, Alana said, pinching her nose as she stepped over a cracked floorboard. Are we really gonna live here? Jaden asked, eyes wide. Tyrone just smiled. Not just live. We're going to build. He handed them gloves. This was no vacation, it was restoration. A revival of something that mattered. The days that followed were filled with sweat and soreness. But there was laughter too. The kind that only happens when you're building something real, together. Tyrone started sketching out plans at night under the soft hum of the porch light. Solar panels, a chicken coop, maybe even cattle again. This land was going to live. But just beyond the fence, something else had already taken root, quiet, polished, and watching. The HOA next door. The land adjacent to Devers Ranch had once been wild. Now it was Magnolia Trails, a gated community of manicured lawns and near-identical houses stacked with stone facades and HOA pride. Tyrone had seen them before on drives out. Now he lived beside them. But he wasn't worried, his deed was clear. His land was his. Until the letter came. It arrived in a stiff white envelope, certified mail, bearing the polished letterhead of the Magnolia Trails Homeowners Association. He opened it at the old kitchen table, a sandwich half-eaten beside him. As he read the letter, his stomach tightened. $250,000 owed in back HOA fees. 10 years' worth. He blinked. They claimed his property had been annexed into Magnolia Trails in 2013, that he was now delinquent, in violation of community codes, aesthetics, and landscaping requirements. The name at the bottom of the letter, Carla Ellington, HOA president. Tyrone didn't panic. He went to the filing cabinet. His grandfather kept everything. It took some digging, but there it was, the 1971 deed. 30 acres, clearly marked. No amendments. No HOA. The next morning, he took it straight to the county clerk's office. A man named Rick, old as the courthouse itself, scanned the deed and cross-checked the maps. Clean, he said. HOA's got no reach here. Looks like they tried this before. Tyrone left the office with more than just confirmation. He left with fire in his chest. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a grab. That night, a white SUV pulled up to the gate. A woman stepped out, blonde hair, clipboard, sunglasses. Mr. Devers. Carla Ellington. I assume you received our notice. Tyrone stood on the porch. I got it. And I checked the records. You've got no jurisdiction here. She smiled like a teacher talking to a misbehaving student. There may have been an administrative error. No, ma'am. Your clubhouse, your tennis courts. They're on my land. She blinked. Just once. A pause. Then, you'll hear from our legal team. He did. 3 days later, a yellow envelope sat wedged in the gate, legal papers from Feldman and Rusk LLP. Threats of court. Claims of trespassing. Tyrone sat on the porch, papers in hand, as Jaden whittled a stick nearby. Is this bad? The boy asked. Tyrone didn't hesitate. It's going to be a fight. But I'm not going anywhere. That night he drove into Magnolia Trails. The gate was open. He parked beside the clubhouse and walked the perimeter with a printed survey map from the county. The lines were clear. The clubhouse, tennis court, even the front entrance. They weren't on HOA land. They were on Devers Ranch. He went home and made a call, to a lawyer named Colleen Park. Sharp. Tough. And not afraid of HOA bullies. She looked at everything, the maps, the letter, the mysterious Plat 7B that had never been approved. They're bluffing, she said. And they've built on land that isn't theirs. That's your leverage. She sent the cease and desist. 2 days later, a drone hovered over the ranch. Same time every morning. Low and buzzing. Jaden threw rocks at it. Alana got scared. Tyrone just watched. Then the threats began. A flyer stuffed into the gate, don't ruin the neighborhood. Sell while you still can. He didn't flinch. He put up a sign, private property, under legal dispute, Devers family since 1964. Let them watch. He had nothing to hide. The drone came back every morning. Low enough to buzz the porch. Long enough to remind them, we're watching you. But Tyrone didn't budge. The next blow came not through the sky, but the mailbox. An unmarked envelope, local postmark, no return address. Inside was a grainy photograph of a half-built clubhouse, men in hard hats standing beside a tripod, surveying equipment near an oak tree Tyrone recognized immediately. It stood deep on Devers' land, near the old painted rock line his grandfather had marked decades ago. Taped to the back of the photo was a note, handwritten in tight, practiced strokes. Ask the county about Plat 7B. Look under the clubhouse foundation. A neighbor. It felt like a hand reaching through the fog. Someone on the inside knew the truth, and wanted it exposed. Tyrone brought it straight to Colleen. This, she said, tapping the image, is the beginning of the end. They returned to the Bastrop County Planning Office. Tyrone asked for everything filed under Magnolia Trails, especially Plat 7B. The clerk raised an eyebrow. Not in the official filing, she said, but still printed a dusty-looking supplemental plat from 2013, one with a scribbled extension looping past the real boundary. No approval. No signature. Just a fake line and a hope no one would look. Colleen's eyes lit up. They knew. They tried to sneak this through. It's not just encroachment. It's fraud. She hired a licensed surveyor the next day. 2 men spent 48 hours walking Devers Ranch, marking the property line with bright orange flags. When they finished, Tyrone stood beside Jaden at the fence. They built over 30 feet onto our land, Tyrone said. Jaden stared at the clubhouse, now partly fenced off with those flags cutting across the tennis court. What happens now? Now. Tyrone said. We take it back. With the evidence mounting, Colleen filed a quiet title action, a legal move to cement Tyrone's ownership and invalidate any false claims. But that was only step 1. Tyrone wanted the truth exposed. So did Colleen. They sent copies of the photo, the maps, and the Plat 7B forgery to a journalist Colleen trusted, Jonah Barrow from the Austin Sentinel. Young, hungry, and known for exposing local corruption. Jonah drove out the same day. He asked smart questions, walked the land, snapped photos of the clubhouse and the flagged lines. He even caught drone footage of the fence line encroachment and the Devers family since 1964 sign in bold, black paint. 3 days later, the front page of the Sentinel read, HOA claims land, but built on man's ranch instead. Devers vs. Magnolia Trails. The article exploded online. With it came calls. Support. Outrage. But also something else, fear from the HOA board. A new sign appeared outside the clubhouse, private access only, trespassers will be prosecuted. A day later, Tyrone received a citation. Someone had filed a complaint that he parked too close to the clubhouse property. He laughed bitterly. My own land, he muttered, tearing the paper in half. But it didn't end there. That night, a black pickup truck idled near the gate. Lights off. Just watching. Jaden saw it. So did Alana. Tyrone didn't speak. He just quietly installed security cameras, motion sensors, and floodlights. The next morning, a restraining order was filed against Tyrone. The HOA now claimed he was inciting hostility, destabilizing the community, creating fear. Colleen rolled her eyes. It's a pressure tactic. Designed to make you flinch. Tyrone didn't flinch. He got louder. He invited friends from Austin. They painted the barn red, just like his grandfather kept it. They grilled, played music, laughed loud. Alana handed out lemonade. Jaden helped plant new fencing posts. 2 days later, someone vandalized the signs Tyrone posted. A tall figure was caught on the security camera, hopping the fence and kicking the wooden posts over at dawn. Tyrone handed the footage to the sheriff's department. Again. Hard to press charges without an ID, the deputy said. That night, Tyrone didn't sleep. Not out of fear. Out of principle. He wasn't just defending land anymore. He was defending legacy. Colleen had warned him, when land disputes got personal, they stopped being about fences and deeds. They became about intimidation. And now, it was clear, the HOA wasn't just scared of losing the case, they were terrified of losing control. That week, Tyrone received a flood of emails. Some anonymous, dripping with veiled threats. You don't belong here. You're destroying the community. Leave before it gets worse. He forwarded them all to Colleen, who compiled them into the harassment section of the quiet title lawsuit. But she had one more move. We're going public, again, she said. This time, we show them who's really unsafe. KXAN News ran the follow-up segment. Drone footage captured the knocked-over signs, the late-night trespasser, and images of the disputed clubhouse built squarely on Tyrone's land. Colleen's words rang clear in the report. They built where they had no right. Then tried to bury it under paperwork and threats. Now they're trying to silence him. Tyrone watched the segment from the couch, Alana curled against his side, Jaden on the floor. You think we're gonna win? Jaden asked. Tyrone nodded slowly. We don't quit. That's our rule. But even as the truth spread, the opposition doubled down. Rumors spun faster than the wind. Jaden overheard 2 men at the local gas station whispering, that rancher's just suing for a payout. People like that always want something. Jaden returned home shaking. They don't even know us. Tyrone didn't argue. They don't need to. They already decided. The next day, the mailbox was torched. The door bent backward. Letters burned into charcoal. One envelope was still legible, the county plat map, half-scorched, stuffed into the ash like a message. Colleen was furious. They're pushing you. Hoping you'll react. But we'll answer with court orders. She filed a property freeze on the clubhouse. No one could touch the land. No one could host events, play tennis, or even mow the grass until the case was decided. Tyrone put up new signs. Private property. Encroachment under court order. Trespassing will be prosecuted. That same night, a dead squirrel was dumped on his porch. Red spray paint was slashed across his driveway. Jaden and Alana barely wanted to go outside anymore. Tyrone didn't back down. He called a friend from his old church in Austin who owned a small private security company. By sunrise, they had installed floodlights, 360 degrees perimeter cameras, and motion alerts that pinged straight to Tyrone's phone. And it paid off. At 3:07 a.m., a man crept along the east fence with a crowbar. The second the light snapped on, he bolted. But the camera got his face, clear as day. This time, Tyrone marched straight into the sheriff's office and placed the footage on the counter. Colleen reviewed it that afternoon and made a decision. "We're done playing defense," she said. "We're filing for full damages, trespassing, harassment, and property theft. And we're dragging the HOA board into court, one by one." Tyrone paused. "Make sure Carla Ellington is sitting front row when the truth hits the mic." The Bastrop County Courthouse was packed. Local reporters lined the back row. HOA residents filled the gallery, some wide-eyed, others tight-lipped. Tyrone stood with Colleen just before the proceedings began, straightening the cuffs of his clean white shirt. He wasn't dressed to impress. He was dressed like a man who'd come to finish something. Carla Ellington sat across the aisle with her lawyer, stiff and unreadable. But her eyes darted, at Tyrone, at the judge, at the crowd. She looked like a woman who finally realized the storm was here, and she was standing at its center. Judge Rose Danvers wasted no time. "We are here today to determine legal ownership of the disputed acreage, evaluate alleged encroachment, and assess harassment claims tied to the Magnolia Trails HOA. Let's begin." Colleen opened with fire. She presented the deed, clean and uninterrupted since 1971. The certified county maps. The photographic evidence. The unauthorized clubhouse sitting over 30 feet into Tyrone's land. The drone footage. The anonymous letter pointing to Plat 7B. Then came the emails. Internal HOA board communications showing Carla and her cohorts intentionally discussing how to quietly pressure Tyrone into selling. When it was Tyrone's turn on the stand, he spoke plainly. "My grandfather built this ranch with his hands. He marked every fence post himself. And I came back here, not for profit, but to keep it in our family. They tried to take that from us. Not with a gun. But with paperwork. And when that didn't work, they tried to scare us." The courtroom went silent. Even Carla lowered her head. Then she was called up. Carla stammered. Blamed surveyors. Blamed administrative confusion. Blamed an error in Plat 7B, though the forged document had no signature, no approval stamp, no legal standing. When asked directly why the HOA built beyond the legal boundary, she muttered, "We thought the land was unoccupied." Colleen dropped the final blow. A signed email from Carla herself. "He won't hold out. Keep the pressure on. If we make him uncomfortable, he'll fold." Judge Danvers took a long pause. Then delivered her verdict. The Devers Ranch remains solely and legally owned by Tyrone Devers and his heirs. Magnolia Trails HOA has no authority, no claim, and no legal jurisdiction over said property. The clubhouse, tennis courts, and entrance structure encroach significantly and were constructed without consent. Therefore, I order the HOA to vacate the encroached land within 60 days, pay $40,000 in damages, and $70,000 in legal fees. In addition, I find the HOA engaged in coordinated harassment and attempted land fraud. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Carla slumped in her seat. Tyrone. He didn't smile. He just exhaled, long, steady, the way his grandfather used to after a day's work. Outside the courthouse, Jaden and Alana were waiting. "Did we win?" Alana asked. Tyrone nodded. "We didn't quit." Angela Reyes approached with a group of Magnolia Trails residents. "Thank you," she said simply. "You stood up. And you helped this whole community realize what was happening." Tyrone shook her hand. "I stood up because that's what men like my grandfather did. And because this land deserved better." But winning was only half the legacy. In the weeks that followed, the clubhouse was padlocked. The HOA board collapsed under internal pressure. Carla disappeared. Colleen filed a lien to ensure payment of the judgment. And Tyrone? He got back to work. Right on the edge of the disputed land, he built something new, not for revenge, but for restoration. A small community pavilion. Garden beds. Water lines. Tool sheds. A sign that read, "Devers Family Garden, open to all." Owned with pride. Jaden helped build the irrigation. Alana painted signs and kept a journal. Retired couples from Magnolia Trails started showing up on weekends, eager to dig and talk. The land had gone from battleground to common ground. One day, an older man in a sun-faded hat approached Tyrone near the tomato rows. "I voted against you," the man said quietly. "At first. I was wrong." Tyrone nodded. "I wasn't trying to start a war. Just trying to defend what's mine." The man gave a tired smile. "Well, you ended up giving us something better than we ever had." Summer came, and the land bloomed. The chickens were back. The barn stood proud and red. And every evening, as the sun dipped low, Tyrone would sit on the porch with Jaden and Alana. "Grandpa would have liked this," Alana whispered. "Yeah," Tyrone said, watching the cottonwood sway gently. He would have been proud. Not because Tyrone won a court battle, but because he refused to fold when they came for his name. Tyrone Devers' story isn't just about land. It's about legacy. About standing your ground when no one believes you have the right to. As Tyrone said best, you don't walk away because it's hard. You stay because it's right. This is why True Echo exists, to honor the unheard, to echo the truth. If this story moved you, subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done if they tried to take what your family built?